Welcome to Faith Talks Wood Podcast. I'm Will from Flywood Works.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast talks about everything from Jesus to joinery and a little bit of everything in between. So we just had some technical difficulties, and we've talked about it on the podcast a little bit. But I'll tell the story. Everybody that listens knows about the hornets. We had hornets out back. It was a nest the size of a basketball. And my wife took care of them because my wife is awesome. Our marriage is perfect. And I take care of spiders. She takes care of bees. It works out. Well, I was mowing the grass this weekend, and I'm mowing around. There's like a plastic cover thing is where Windstream, the phone company, terminates their lines. And so it's like a little plastic thing that's in our yard. It's out by the road, but it's in our yard. And so I'm mowing around that. And next thing you know, I start getting lit up by yellow jackets. I done found a yellow jacket nest. It's inside of this thing. Well, I push the mower forward and I jump off the mower, and my mower, the zero turn is you push the arms out and puts it in park. Well, when I first bought the mower in Tennessee, we had an acre and a half and the yard was pretty bumpy. And so when I was mowing the grass, the stupid thing was shut off because I'd be mowing and I'd come up off the seat. And so I disabled that thing. I got up underneath the seat and I jumped it. And so I disabled that safety function. Hindsight's 2020. So I jump off the mower while I was because I was getting stung left and right. I was in such a hurry that I didn't get both of them in lock position to stop it. And so I jump off the mower and I'm swatting and I'm, trying to get these stupid bees away from me. And there's my mower doing circles in the yard. You've seen it before on, funny TikTok reels or whatever. There's my mower doing circles in the yard. And once I get my bearings back, and my dog was outside with me, and she come running over to see what the heck was going on, because I'm like screaming and getting lit up. And I finally get my bearings back, and they weren't attacking me at that point. And I run over to the mower, and I hit the arm to put it in park. And then I jump on it, and then I take it back to the house, and I run inside, and my wife, she didn't see it happen, and she's like, "What's going on?" I said, "I found a yellow jacket's nest. They lit me up." I went back to the bathroom to just try to see what was going on in the mirror, and end up getting an ice pack. And then my wife goes out there. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to go inspect it, see if I can see where they're coming from." I'm pretty sure they're coming from the Windstream thing out there. And so she goes out there, and she didn't get but about 15, 20 feet from them, and they start lighting her up. And so she gets stung a couple times, and she takes off running, comes back to the house. She's like, "Yeah, you done made them mad." I'm like, "Yeah, whew." Well, the way our property's set up, we have a horseshoe driveway, big horseshoe driveway, loops to the house, and then, really nice. You can go in and out, don't have to turn around. We do have parking spots, the garage and stuff, but that thing is in the middle of the horseshoe driveway. And so once I got some ice on everything, and I started to, I got to get the grass finished. So that's still not mowed. I did the rest of the yard, but the horseshoe where that thing's at, I didn't touch it. So then my wife goes back out after the kids go down, and it's, starting to get dark out, and it's been kind of cool at night last few nights. And she goes back out there with bee spray. And I'm watching her. Next thing you know, she's swatting, and she's like, "Ah," and she takes off running. They come after her again. So anywho, stupid bees and the yellow jackets. These are just little guys, and they are mean. Yeah. So anywho, I don't like bees. That's the first time I've been stung. My wife and I couldn't remember. I think I got stung once in Tennessee, but I'm not sure. Before that, it was in high school. I'm so cautious of bees because I got attacked by a hornet's nest when I was a kid. I don't want nothing to do with them. And so yeah, that was part of my weekend. It was a good weekend, but ended up getting attacked by yellow jackets, and I do not recommend it.
When I was a kid, we lived in a neighborhood that at the end of our neighborhood was all woods, and that's where we went and swung on vines across the creek where we cut trails in the woods to ride our bicycles. And we were down there with the lawnmower cutting a path through the woods for I had a 3-wheeler back then. And my buddy had a go-kart, and we were making a little track for ourselves. Dude, I cut the lawnmower right over top, a push mower, not a ride mower, push mower right over the top of a yellow jacket's nest, and they lit me up. And I lived on the opposite end of the block. I went sprinting all the way home through the gate. We had a swimming pool growing up. My mom and dad had friends over. I come through the gate, dive into the pool right in the middle of their party. And they're like, what's going on? I was just like swatting. I got stung like 26 times. Man,
Ooh.
they tore me up. I was like, the thing I hate about yellow jackets is they make their nests in the ground. At least
Right.
hornets are up in the tree. Wasp or wherever they want to do them up, usually attached to something. And honeybees, they're in the hive. But yellow
Right.
jackets, like you can stumble across their nests by accident. And man, they seem to be I don't want to get stung by a hornet, but the yellow jackets, man, they get mad quick and they will tear you up.
Well, at least I think they're yellow jackets because they're in the thing. They're not in the ground. They're not wasps because wasps I don't think can keep stinging you. These things just keep lighting you up.
Yeah, those yellow jackets.
Yeah. So, boy, we years ago when I was in church camp, I was probably in 6th grade maybe. We're coming walking on this trail in this state park, and at the trailhead come out to the road, and right before you got to the road, myself and my buddy were in the front of the pack, and next thing you know, we just start getting lit up. I had one go down my shirt and sting me like 15 times.
Man.
Just crazy. Yeah, so I don't like bees. I don't have a good relationship with bees. I know honeybees pollinate, and they all, I guess, kind of pollinate or whatever, but they can die as far as I'm concerned. So my wife went back out there tonight, and it's pretty cold out. I mean, the temperature's dropped a lot, and she was able to unload a can on them without them coming out and stuff. But the problem is they're inside that thing, and you can't really get in there and spray the thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. We'll keep checking it. And worst case, I'll call Windstream and say, hey, come take care of this.
Yeah, that's what I do. But now, I hate yellow jackets. I also hate cigarettes. But if you ever get stung by a bee, yellow jacket, whatever, take the tobacco out of a cigarette or other type tobacco, wet it, put it on your bite, your sting, and then put a Band-Aid over it. It'll take the sting away.
Really?
Yeah. That's what happened.
Interesting.
I grew up in South Carolina where we grew all the tobacco, so you learn, but it works. It'll take the sting out of, yep. I don't know why it works, but it works.
Right. Yeah. The one on my eye swelled up. Luckily, I'm not really allergic. I mean, it swelled up a little bit, but the worst one of all of them was on my wrist, like right by my watch, and he got me a couple times there. And that hurt like oh my gosh, it still is tender right now. I mean, there's no stinger in there. Obviously, they just keep going because they're buttholes. But but yeah, man. So how have you been?
Man, I have been just working my butt off the last week, dude. I have had install after install after install. And today I had to install an Aspen. I got up at 2:30 this morning so I could leave my house at 4 and be sitting at the job site at 6:30. Long story short, I got there. They weren't ready for me. I've got to go back tomorrow to Aspen. I'm like, I'm charging. I was like, I ain't coming back for free. And so, yeah, man.
So how does that work? Do you just charge for travel time at that point, or?
Well, yeah. It'll be the extra 5 hours of travel time. So yeah, because install still takes the same amount of install hours, but I charge for mileage, 50 cents a mile for travel, and then also for my hourly wage of traveling. It's about 2.5 hours up there, so it'd be an additional 5 hours of drive time and the mileage.
So your drive time and install time are different rates?
Nope. I get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I charge the same thing from when I leave my house till I get home. And so
Now, so we pay mileage at work for like if I have a technician that runs around at locations and stuff. I'm pretty sure mileage is up like to like 80 something cents or something now.
yeah, I need to up my price. I've been charging the same thing for years on the mileage because the whole reason for me on charging mileage is kind of help cover my expense, my vehicle maintenance, gas, that type of stuff.
Right. Yeah, 70 cents a mile is the IRS rate for 25.
Yeah. Now I write off that on my taxes with the IRS,
Right.
but what I charge my customer is the 50
Gotcha.
cent. But I really should up it with the gas prices and all. But
Oh yeah, it's insane. Very good. Well, before we get into it, I want to thank the sponsor or the partner of our podcast, Surf Prep Sanding. Thank you guys so much for partnering with us. If you want to get some sanding stuff, go to surfprepsanding.com. Use code FAITH at checkout. Get 10% off. It helps us out some. So without further ado, Tom, you want to talk about the guest and how you found him and stuff?
yeah, man. So as you know, y'all have heard me say many times, one day I'm going to get a lathe in my shop. I do not have one. I don't know how to turn, but I am fascinated with wood turners. And one day saw something this guy was turning and started following him, and then saw some of his faith posts. And I was like, man, we got to get this guy on to share his story. And I'm going to butcher your name, Tony, because I still can't figure out how to pronounce it even after you tell me. But I'm going to call him Tony Vigilante, but it's like Tony Vigilate or something like that from Tony Turns Wood. Welcome to the podcast, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how to say your name properly.
Thanks for having me, man. It's Vilgiate. Too many syllables for not enough vowels and consonants. I know. So Vilgiate. It's a weird one. No one gets it right. I married the first girl who could pronounce it so that was like the test, the litmus
That's a
test.
deal breaker.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's really an honor. A lot of my friends have been on your podcast, and I get a chance to listen, and it's great seeing people of faith getting together around a commonality and an affinity, not just for Jesus, but for the craft and making and just being good stewards. And that's awesome. I really like what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I can kind of jump into my story. It's not there's like the short version, and then there's the long drawn out version, depending on how deep everyone wants to get. But the short version is my folks were saved in Southern California back during the Jesus Freak movement. Chuck Smith and Lonnie Frisbee down there get baptized at Pirates Cove. My mom came out of a kind of a spiritualist, a lot of mediums and seances kind of family. And my dad was an Easter and Christmas Catholic, really didn't have a solid faith in anything, just kind of traditional, born a Catholic, got confirmed because I was supposed to go on Easter, get a couple of those days in, and I'm good. And then they had a radical Holy Spirit encounter with Chuck Smith down at Pirates Cove, and they got saved and radical transformation. So my mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and my dad was in the police academy in Los Angeles County to be a sheriff when he got saved. So I was 6 years old, and we for a little while kind of hung out with the Jesus movement, the drum circles and Maranatha Village and a couple of the cool things that some people who know the scene or would remember before he got transferred out, and we moved to Yorba Linda. And that's out for those of you who remember Richard Nixon. He was a Quaker, and the church he went to was out in Yorba Linda, and it was Yorba Linda Friends Church. And they had just planted another church over by the neighborhood where we moved to called Rose Drive Friends Church, and that's Quaker. But it's not the Quakers like with the hats and the oats. We're talking about there's two different branches. There's the Evangelical Society of Friends, and then there's just the Society of Friends. Society of Friends is the more pacifist, kind of, I guess we'd call them today progressive Christians, and the Evangelical Society of Friends are more kind of mainstream, mainline, pretty traditional theology. And so I was pretty much raised in that. I did the typical, give your life to Jesus when you're 7 years old because your mama sat you down and read you a story. And I don't disparage that. I think that there's some real value in that, and I think parents should be spending that kind of time with their kids. But I know for me personally, at 7 years old, I didn't know what that meant. And I don't know if you can enter into an agreement when you don't really understand the terms. So it wasn't until I had gone through quite a bit, high school, typical early 80s, late 70s, punk rock and girls and all that kind of stuff. And my mom was seeing some signs of slippage in me that she didn't particularly care for. So she sent me to the Institute in Basic Youth Conflicts. I don't know if you guys remember Bill Gothard. He had a whole Institute in Basic Youth Conflicts and Principles for Living. He was like the original Jordan Peterson, except for
oh my goodness,
Jordan Peterson didn't diddle the help like Bill Gothard was accused of later on. And so I was 16. I was 16 years old, 1984, Long Beach, California. When I finally heard the message, and it really pulled my heart in a way that said, this is something I need to do again, and I need to do right and of my own free will, not to make someone else happy. And I went down and had an altar call, and that's kind of the day that I officially, in my mind, made that commitment. I didn't see like those automatic, radical, instantaneous changes that some people want to talk about, but I did feel different and did see different callings, and I did look at some of the things I was doing differently, and they started losing their luster. Changed some friend groups, changed the kind of music I was listening to, got more and more active at church, started going on a lot of short-term missions trips and stuff like that, just seeing just that slowly building of the faith. And I kind of hung there, to be honest. I hung there for another 15 years, just like perfectly happy with being saved and loving Jesus on the Sundays and Wednesday night church and whenever there was a missions trip. And the rest of my life really didn't get seriously impacted, to be honest. It was just like going on, moving on with your life. We moved down to Southern Orange County, met who became my wife the second day I lived there. So we're talking 1985 now. And this guy was just starting a church no one had heard of. His name was Rick Warren. He ended up doing the Saddleback of the Purpose Driven Church, and they needed a guitar player. And so for a couple of years, my wife and I showed up at what would end up becoming Saddleback Church, setting up chairs in church in high school gymnasiums and pulling them down and playing music. And as that thing grew, my mom was on staff there. She was working there as well at the time. And it just kept growing. There was a little bit of tension, and the bigger it got, professional musicians started coming in, and all of a sudden you're trying out for the gig you already had. And it was a gig to me. I have to be honest. I mean, I was serving because you're supposed to serve. I wasn't serving because I felt called to do that. I was serving because this is what you do. You serve. And when that all kind of fell apart for my family, and my wife and I and my mom and dad were still living in the same city and still going to the same church, I kind of just dropped out entirely. I went, okay, I've had enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it was about 6 years of just kind of doing my own thing. My career was taking off. I was working hard in engineering. And I had a friend of mine who was turning 40 at work. This is, late 90s, let's say 96, 97 at this point. So it's been 10, 12 years since I had made my original commitment. And he was turning 40, and I wanted to get him something. And I just felt like audibly like, you need to get him a Bible. Why don't you get him a Bible? You don't talk about your faith. And this guy's been kind of asking about, what church you go to and stuff. So I bought this guy a Bible, and I bought myself one at the same time. I had Bibles and stuff, but I hadn't bought like a modern translation or anything like that. And just started getting back into it. And it just started becoming part of my daily routine. And I started listening to Christian radio again. I was listening to Greg Laurie and Chuck Smith and Chuck Missler and all the guys who are in Southern California Christian radio. And that following year, we moved out to the Inland Empire, they call it, Murrieta, California, around Temecula, Murrieta. And landed in a neighborhood. First couple days, guy walks around, pastor from this new church plant that's going in the elementary school. So right back to my days of setting up chairs and opening up the trailer at 6 a.m, and hauling out the sound system, and invited us to come. And we started coming, and it built from there for me in terms of no longer feeling like this is what you do, obligated to serve, but felt like an actual calling, or like now it was time to do it. And as the more I served, the more I enjoyed it, the more missions trips I went in, the more connected to the Lord I felt, the more I got to see him move in ways that you just don't see when you're just plodding through your day-to-day life, if you're just plugging along. And we hung out there until 2004, and felt we were called to move to Colorado to be with family, and that was fortuitous. No one knew at the time, but my mother had just a few years left to live. She was a young, died very young. And we felt called to move out there. So we got to spend that last 4 years with her, taking care of her and kind of nursing her through that. And when we landed there, right away, had a band. You guys probably heard of Enter the Worship Circle. You guys remember the You Are So Good to Me and some of those tunes from the early 2000s. Those guys were all in Colorado at the time. And one of the leaders of that group asked me if I'd be willing to play bass for him literally within a week of arriving there. And so I was right back in, plugged into another community of slightly more charismatic people than I was used to, but in a neat environment where there were more opportunities for mission trips, more opportunities to tour with the band, recording opportunities. And it just continually saw the Lord push me a little further, give me the resources and the skills I needed to do that, and then put me out on another ledge and then put me on another ledge. I just continued to follow that and just kind of continually felt that depth of connection. And as I included Jesus into my everyday life, into my family, not just as that thing I do on Sunday and Wednesdays. Go down a few years down the road there, I got to be a youth pastor for half a dozen years, got to be a worship leader in a couple other churches, working with folks, got to go on a lot of cool missions trips. Even with the Southern Baptists, I was with the Southern Baptists. I was out with the Assembly of God. I really didn't put myself in a box where I had to be there, just like wherever the need was. That's kind of what we did. And then sold my company, which is a long story. We ended up in Washington. And within a couple of weeks of hunting for churches, I had a pastor, and this is where wood turning comes back around. I was posting some of the stuff that I was turning that was for sale up on Facebook Marketplace. And this random guy, didn't know he was a pastor, said, "Hey, I want that bowl. I really want that bowl. How do I get it? How do I come buy it?" He came by the house, came into my shop, hung out for a couple hours, probably an hour and a half before he even told me he was a pastor of a local church here. And it turns out that he's a church that also serves the margins. They're not looking for big building projects and stuff like that. But it's like, how do we feed the hungry, take care of the widows and orphans, deal with poverty and homelessness in our own neighborhoods that we're around? And we just kind of hit it off, and we plugged in there, and we've been there now for 3 years and really enjoying. God kind of has found us a family every step we've gone. And kind of where now I've been married 38 years this October. Got 2 lovely boys. One just graduated Bible college, and one's finishing up his doctorate at University of Texas in Austin. And we're just enjoying the first stages of retirement. I retired in March of this year. So I'm just now starting to get back into being off of the day-to-day grind. No more 9 to 5. So,
yeah. So I want to pull on a couple strings because you said a few things, and I'm like, I want to pull on this a little bit. So you said your parents grew up with Chuck Smith, basically in the
when it became Christians, in their mid-20s, mid-20s.
Yeah. People don't realize, well, one, that I believe that there are different revivals that happen. Mm-hmm. And I believe that was one of them.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And they say it's about every 60 to 70 years. So if you do the math.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to time them out, but that was definitely a revival. What was happening down there with Chuck Smith and Lonnie Frisbee. Later on, we could go way down the church history rabbit hole from the 70s and 80s. Wimber, who started the Vineyard churches with Lonnie Frisbee, was a Quaker worship leader. He was the choir director at Yorba Linda Friends Church when that whole thing went down and that split. Wow. So I have I'm going to say had, because I really am over it. I don't have any bitterness. But as a young child watching a church split over theology, I was 13, 14 years old when that went down. It was that was I put up a wall, watching. I go, you were just like anyone else. You might as well be a Pizza Hut and a Shakey's on the same corner fighting over customers. That's how it felt,
Right.
Yeah, Chuck was we went to his Bible studies on Wednesday nights. And if you guys remember Chuck Missler, kind of the end times guy, he ended up in Idaho at Koinonia House. I think he eventually moved to New Zealand and passed away. But we went to his Bible studies on Wednesday nights back in the late 80s, early 90s, when he was really into the end time stuff and all that. So
right. Yeah. I mean, there, and then I think the Calvary Chapel come out of the Chuck Smith stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. Kind of that was Chuck's church, and that was also, it's become a denomination now.
Right.
Skip Isaac, Greg Laurie, Chuck Smith. You kind of go through a whole list of some very prominent Bible teachers, and they're great verse by verse Bible teachers. You know, I don't.
And that's one of the things with Calvary Chapel, and what he brought out of that was expository teaching.
Mhm.
Very big on. Yeah.
You guys know Mike Winger at all? You guys follow?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Mike Winger is an ex Calvary Chapel pastor.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I've been following Mike Winger since when he was just the Bible thinker.
Yeah, he was still the Bible thinker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Greg, what's Greg's last name? Oh darn it! He wrote 4 reviews of Revelation, and all of a sudden I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was also a former Calvary Chapel Bible college teacher, and he's also a phenomenal. I'll shoot you a text later with his name, but it's some really good Bible teaching.
Yeah. So. One of the commentaries I use is Dave Gudzik. Mm-hmm. He's a Calvary Chapel guy. Yep. Yeah, a lot of those. Honestly, fairly solid theology, I believe, as far as Calvary Chapel. But, yep. And then you said something else that hit a trigger for me is Bill Gothard.
Yep.
IBLP. He, boy, that's a mess.
It was. And at the time for me, it was before all that. I think none of that came to light until 2014. I was already a married man, had children, was moving on with my life. I don't think I even paid attention to the scandal. Probably until 2020-ish or so that I realized when I was giving my testimony, and I had to write it out. I do have like a 7-page testimony and a 3-page spoken word one. I can do it a hip hop beat if you want. Huh?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think we'll probably leave that one alone for now. No more youth pastor stuff for me. But that's when I found out that he had been accused of, harassing his female employees. And I know Bill's in his late 90s now. I don't know him personally. Met the man one time at an altar call in 1984. But it is a great example of no matter how broken. And I think even Cameron Lockie brought this up when we talked about Mark. You guys were talking about Mark Driscoll, who I have a high regard. Oh,
yeah. Yep.
I mean, still great work was done there. You know, he did some bad stuff according to what came out here, and awful. But good things happen. The fruit of his ministry was real, and I'm an example of that. That doesn't excuse his behavior, but it also kind of points back to my life verse, which is Job 14:7. And it talks about, when a tree is cut down, it leaves the stump and new branches can grow. And to me, that always just reminded me, because I've had some big failings that I wouldn't want to talk about on a podcast, the 2 fellows I just met, but they're important to know that, no matter how far you've cut that tree down, God has given you roots and it's given you a way to grow back and given you a path to restoration and redemption. And I'd like to feel that Bill has had that access and that he has been repentant. And I don't know the story. I do know Mark's story, and I love seeing how his ministry's turned around and how he's submitted to other authority and become, I think, the man God called him to be, and the man that I think a lot of the church needs right now. And I'm very impressed by Mark Driscoll's ministry. So I never write anybody off. And I know right now in this age of cover-up culture on the charismatic side and some of the other things going down, I'm not writing anybody off. I mean, I'm sure there's some evil people out there, but we're all sinners. And you put that kind of power in front of anybody's hands and that kind of glory and fame, it's real easy to lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's my thing with Driscoll. He, back when his church was, when the whole thing fell apart.
Mars Hill in Seattle.
Mars Hill. Yeah. He was saying not anything he said. I mean, he was kind of edgy a lot of stuff, but it was all truth. And it was stuff that culture needed to hear. And even now, his stuff, I follow him and I listen to some of his sermons. He's spot on.
Yeah, I very rarely walk away from one of his sermons with my notebook full of stuff I need to double check on. I mean, to be honest, it's a lot of style stuff. And I'm not going to get political, but it's even like Trump. You might not like the way he presents himself or some of the attitude or something like that. But every now and then, if you just look at what he actually said or did, you find a real hard time to disagree with it. I'm like, man, I would have done that a whole lot differently, but kind of got to look at look at the scoreboard right now, brother. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I'll be honest. I mean, I work in the financial sector, and I'm in IT, but people don't realize the things that he's doing, and we're not a political podcast, but the things that he's doing are very intentional. And economically, I'll lay it here. I think some of the things are good. not agreeing how he's doing it and how he's going about it, but again, don't want to get too political, but the reality
that's my point about Mark Driscoll, though. Mark was doing and saying all the right stuff behind the scenes. I understand he was a bit of a bully, young man, 30 years old, all that responsibility. That's a rough road to hoe. But can't point to one of his sermons where you go, well, he just got that wrong.
Right.
Solid,
Yeah.
Might have been a jerk about it, but you were a jerk in love.
I think that one thing about pastors, and we can relate this to Trump too, is that everybody's looking at the pastor of a church to be perfect.
Yeah.
They're looking for the president of the United States to be perfect. And got news for you, none of them are perfect. And, if Paul were alive today, he would get shredded by our media because they wouldn't look at everything he did after he got saved. They would only look at what he was doing before, And I'll use Pastor Robert Morrison. I loved listening to him. I started tithing and changed my family finances off of sermons I heard him preach and books that he wrote.
I'm not familiar with him.
So Robert Morrison was the pastor of Gateway Church in Texas, big church.
Okay, I know Gateway. Yeah.
And then, so he's 65 years old or so now, in his 60s, and now he's no longer the pastor because something came out of what he did when he was like 20, 21 years old, 22 as a young pastor. And what he did back then was wrong. Oh my gosh. It was crazy insane. But I'm going to tell you what, though, he did a lot of good, even though he was obviously did some bad stuff. And I think he's probably not the man today that he was when he was that 20-year-old. And
I know I'm not. I'm not the man that was.
And I'm not either. Man, if we brought back out all the dirt on me from my 20s and 30s, oh my gosh, man. Y'all was like, you cannot be on this podcast talking about Jesus. I mean, that's the reality. Same thing I love, or I used to, but before he stopped being, you mentioned Rick Warren in Saddleback Church. He was one of my favorite pastors to listen to. I'm not a big fan of the guy that took over there now. And of course, there's been stuff about Rick too, but I'm like, he's not perfect. But man, what a great teacher. He did a lot of good things. And his book, Purpose Driven Life.
Yeah, we left right during that whole Purpose Driven Life thing. And so that's kind of my last exposure. Rick Warren, I never really looked in the rearview mirror afterwards. So I really didn't keep up with what was going on. They turned into a mega church with 100-acre
but
thing, and
all off of that one book.
Yeah,
I mean,
and for me, I just remember calluses, dirty hands, and having to get up and play guitar after set up chairs. So,
I want to know this. So you talked a lot about playing guitar. So I could see how you would be a luthier, but yet you're a bowl turner. So how did you get into woodworking and into turning?
I have done both. I was a luthier for years while turning. I built quite a few acoustic guitars, electric bass guitars, mostly acoustics. But I got into turning, and this is another story, just a God story. I had a neighbor. We had just bought our first condominium, and we were in Mission Viejo, California. And my neighbor broke his leg. And it turns out he worked a block and a half away from where I worked. So I started driving him into work every day and picking him up from work. And he was a Mormon, very, very dedicated Mormon. And their job is to try to proselytize you. It is their absolute job to get you to become a Mormon as well. I won't go into the ups and downs of that with anyone, but it made me get a little more apologetic and a little more polemic about my faith. And this is 1992. So I really started digging a little deeper. Like he had come up with something, I'd bring it back out, starting reading Walter Martin books, Kingdom of the Cults on Your Doorstep, read the Book of Mormon, The Pearl of Great Price, and all that stuff. So I could understand where he's coming from. And it just sparked this absolute relationship between us. It was very polemic. Here I am. It wasn't erratic. We were having a head-to-head fight for the hour drive back and forth from Orange County back to our house about the Bible and what it means and stuff like that. And through that, we developed this great friendship, and it turns out he happened to be a wood turner. So one Saturday, instead of me driving his kids to Little League, he asked if I could pop over and hey, let me show you my lathe and what we're doing here. And he had an old Delta 10-inch lathe he got from a high school shop that he had just finished restoring, and this was the big debut. And he put a skew in my hand that day, and I never looked back. I just felt in love. Things spun up. At first, I'm like, what is this? I'm going to just shove this sharp thing and this 2,000 RPM spindle spinning at me. And I got down to using this skew. It was the first tool I owned. He gave me my first skew, and I'd sneak over during the day when he wasn't turning. He was working on some cabinet project. He let me use the lathe. About a year later, I bought my first lathe, a gorgeous Central Machinery, $99 that we had to save up to buy at the time, tubes. I mounted it to an old waterbed frame that I bolted together a bunch of water to make it heavy enough to hold my lathe. And I just started turning. I was making clocks, candlesticks. I really didn't get into bowl turning until about my fourth year because all I had was a skew. So if I couldn't make it with a skew or a roughing gouge, it wasn't going to get made. And there were no YouTube. So I was buying VHS tapes of Richard Raffin. He's probably still the best living, in my opinion, the best living wood turner on the planet, and one of the best instructors, and a generous man with his time and talent. He's got a great YouTube channel as well. He was the inspiration for me getting on YouTube and starting doing all these videos and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
I did not know you had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I when you contacted me, I had not broke 1,000 subscribers back in March, and I'm at 2,500 as of this morning. So it's been
congratulations.
We're having some pretty good traction there, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun for me, especially since I retired. I've got more time to pour into it and really try to listen to what people want. Hey, show me how you did that. Oh, sure, I'll throw a video together, show you how I did it. I'm really having a good time.
That's cool. Well, you'll get another subscriber tonight. I didn't know you had that.
I just subscribed right now.
Wow, cool. So I started with VHS tapes, and Rob wasn't really a bowl turner. So together, he and I started turning, and then we went to Woodcraft at the time out there. I bought a full set of turning tools, and he and I shared them for a bit. And then he ended up moving, and I moved and bought myself another lathe and just kept upgrading. I had probably a 10-year hiatus where I was doing nothing but guitars. I just didn't have time for the spindle turning and the pens and the bowls and stuff. And I was doing acoustic guitars and basses. Love doing it, but as you guys know, that is a tough way to make a living. And I had, limited amount of time. And if I'm down to making 8 cents an hour, when you put everything together at the end, I'm like, there are better uses of my time. I can go mow lawns. I can deliver pizzas. I can, if I got to get the bills paid. So I did the basses for a while. When I moved up to down to Colorado Springs in 2016, another worship leader, his name was Chris Cuomo. I'll never forget him. He had a jet lathe in his garage that someone had given him. He had the intention of getting into turning, and he asked me if I wanted it. And I said no. So he gave it to another guitar player in my band, Ben Yoder. And Ben Yoder put it in his garage and never turned it on. He called me about 6 months later. Hey, man, I still have that lathe that Chris passed down. You want it? And this time I had time and a little energy. And I said, yeah, let's get it. So I went and picked it up. Moved my table saw, my band saw, my drill press, just moved everything into the corner and set up. And I've been turning pretty much nonstop since then. So it's been almost going on 10 years of turning at least 2 to 3 hours a day and sometimes 8 hours a day. Just building what I want to build. I'm not a salesman. I don't get out and I do some shows with my wife, who's a very accomplished watercolor artist. So when she was doing shows, I'd bring a few of my things and set them up on a little table. And when people started showing interest in them, I started bringing more things, and then a whole table of my own. And then my half of the booth, her half of the booth is how we have it set up now. And I get out there. I'm really not focused on utility pieces like a lot of the shows are. It's art. I'm really more interested in making art. And now it's about making a star for my video. I need a main character for my video when I'm writing out my storyline for what video I'm going to do. So my number one video is around this silly little oval bowl. It's oval. It's all warped and funny shaped and everything like that. That's my number one video. Is someone wanted to know how do you make an oval bowl on a lathe, and so it's actually not that hard at all. So we made a video, and that was the first one of my call and response kind of videos where someone asked me to how did you do that? I'll make a video and show you. And that kind of started the whole thing for me. Wow. So now my turning is exclusively finding a main character for my next story to tell. if that makes any sense.
That's cool.
A lot of fun. And for me, we talked about this a little bit off camera, that stewardship. Wood turning is a beautiful example of godly stewardship. You have this beautiful natural resource that's presented that is generally having to be cut down for safety reasons, or just sometimes just aesthetics. Most of the time the trees are getting cut down because they got sick, they got old, they no longer serve their purpose. And as turners, most of our material comes from that stuff that would end up in the landfill or in someone's burn pile. So you can take that thing and breathe into it a whole nother life, and just maintain that beauty. And that to me is a neat model of stewardship. The other, if we have time, the other story I'd love to is most of my customers, the actual paying customers now, are people who come to me because they have some legacy tree. My grandpa planted this in 1942. I planted this tree when my daughter was born, and it had to come down or it blew over in a windstorm, and they want something out of it, some memorial or memento. And I think the last 9 things I've sold have been someone coming to me with some legacy piece of timber that was important to them or their family, and then being able to do something with that to carry on that memory or preserve a bit of that memory for them. And that's been super special for me. That really feels like a neat way to just to minister people at a place where they're at, because it's usually a place of hurt. When someone loses something, you're never generally rejoicing. There's very few of us who find the strength and the obedience to rejoice when we're mourning, right?
Yeah,
that's a choice. So you get to really meet people usually at a low spot, and it's a lot of fun for me to be able to minister to them in that way. What it was, I think it was C.S. Lewis or Tolkien that says, "Preach the gospel everywhere you go, and if you have to use words." I try to live by that, but I probably use too many words too. I'm a little wordy. I do love a good argument.
That's cool, man. Very cool. So what size lathe do you have?
I have an oddball. I have a 18 by 60, so 18-inch swing.
Yeah.
On the inside, it'll turn 38 inches on the outside, and it's 60 inches long. It's made by Oliver Machinery.
Oh, yeah.
It's an oddball brand, but man, I love those guys. They're up here in Bellingham, Washington. They treat me so good. I'm not sponsored by anything on tap, but they're always giving me encouragement, asking my input on the next models and stuff like that. So I really love them a lot. Great.
Andy Rolls has Oliver stuff in his shop, and he has a Oliver lathe.
Probably has the same model I have, or the newer one, which is not as good. Take that, Andy.
Well, yeah, Andy's got a bunch of old stuff too. Like,
if he's got a real old Oliver, like a 25B or something. I've been jonesing for one. But again, back to stewardship. What I want and what I need, what'll meet the job, and what would satisfy my ego. I'm really, especially at retirement, I'm being very careful about not scratching itches that aren't real. That I really don't. I don't need it. I don't buy it anymore.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, a lot of guys that I've known that are pen turners absolutely love that Harbor Freight one.
Yeah. It's like the Bauer lathe is a great lathe for small turnings at high speed. You're not putting a lot of stress on it. You don't have to worry about the kind of lower end bearings. And their newest model, from the reviews, I did a video on it. It's not a bad lathe for the money, but it's almost the same price as getting a Grizzly or getting a Jet at the entry level. So at that point, you're just like, hey, is it convenient to go pick one up, throw it in the back of your truck, bring it home, and not have to pay shipping, or wait for someone to have a sale on a Jet or a Grizzly sale or something like that?
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies and the Bauer Harbor Freight stuff comes out of the same China factory. I mean, my lathe came from Taiwan. I think it's the last year of that. And getting an American-made lathe right now, to my knowledge, in terms of main brands, there's only Robust. And then if you go outside of a company, build a beautiful lathe. But I mean, those are your 2 North American options, really. Everything else, Powermatic, Jet, Oliver, all made offshore.
Yeah, I met the guys at Oliver back in 2022, 21 at IWF in Atlanta.
Did you see their new planer? Their 15 desktop?
Yeah, it's something else.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is as good as it gets for a benchtop.
And that's pretty pricey too.
You get a Sheelix. You actually get a bird Sheelix head in there, and it is stable, and the wick's set right. It's not a it is not a DeWalt 640.
Right.
Oh, I mean, it's the real deal. It's a professional cabinet grade machine for under $2,000.
Yeah.
And I've had big bell saws, 5 horsepower bell saws, and 5 horsepower grizzlies, 3-knife grizzlies and stuff. Nowhere near the cut quality you're going to get off of that Oliver, from my experience. Even Swan, what's his first name? Big wood turner guy. Izzy Swan. He's using the Oliver 15. Although I think he probably use anything anyone would pay him to use. Look at the shop equipment. I'm like, you didn't buy any of this stuff, did you, son? So,
That's funny. I've never done, well, I did turning in high school. We all make the candlestick in the bowl, right? And my parents, I think, still have those. It's not something I've ever been into.
Cool thing about turning, especially for guys more flat work or carpentry, is in carpentry you're adding stuff together. You're doing joinery. You're taking 2 pieces and making one. In turning, for the most part, traditionally, it's a subtractive process. You're actually sculpting something. So you have to put 2 things together. You can't start out, unless you're a Richard Finley or a production turner who's making spindles for a banister, who's got a template. You're really sitting down with a raw lump of clay and getting to form it how you want. Some guys use more artistic and flowy language, like, "Oh, I'm waiting for it to tell me what it wants to be." I'm like, I'll make any mistakes, hope it stays on the lathe and it turns into something pretty. It's kind of how I'm thinking, but
right.
It's totally different than when I sit down and do, dovetail inlaid cutting boards for somebody or that kind of stuff, or making a pretty jewelry box or something. That's a whole different level of concentration. It's very, very, I love it. I love doing it. I don't post a lot of content about it because I'm kind of a turner is my brand, but I really enjoy sitting down and making something exactly right. Doing a hand cut dovetail, doing an inlay with chisels, not, coming out there with some router template or something like that. I mean, that is life-giving. And, but it also makes for very, very, very boring content for the way I tell a story. I'm just chattering the whole time while I'm doing my turning. And if I'm doing wood turning, I'm like dead silent. I gotta be like focused, getting it just right. No one wants to watch me spend 8 minutes setting on my for a cut, So at least I wouldn't want to watch myself doing that.
Yeah. That's incredible though. So what, for somebody starting out, like what size lathe do you think best?
Depends on what you want to turn. My recommendation is join a club. Best advice you can do. Every AAW's got a branch of a turning club in every city. In Colorado, you've got 2 of the best. The Inland Northwest Woodturners, the Rocky Mountain Woodturners are amazing. Roper up there. There's just so many great guys, and you will find a mentor right away who's going to let you use his gear, who's going to take you under his arm. There's always some guy, my age or 15 years older, who's waiting for the next 30-year-old who really wants to dig in. You'll spend hours with them on the weekends or around their schedule to get them interested in it, and then they'll get comfortable and know what it is they really want to do. You really need to avoid, I call it gear acquisition syndrome. Don't jump into it. It's like gear when you're playing bass guitar. A new bass is not going to make you sound better. Practice. Single most important tool in your bag is your practice time, your regiment, how well you learn your scales, your motion, your motor control, your muscle control. It's not what machine you're turning on. I could turn everything I turn on a $100 garage sale lathe. And there's a few guys who turn some really massive stuff that need 5 horsepower. They got to be able to spin it, stuff like that. But the reality is you don't need to spend $1 million to get into turning. Anybody could do it for $300-400 in a little diligent search of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and get themselves into the hobby. I still have my first lathe, and it's been 35 years, and it was a $99 Harbor Freight lathe. Right now I use it as a buffing station. I've got buffing wheels hooked up on it. Motor still runs, speed still works, perfectly fine. If you want to turn, look up AAW, find out a club, jump on board. You will get all the instruction, hands-on, access to tools, techniques, training, monthly meetings. So build a little community around you. That's the best way to do it.
That's cool. Now, do you use traditional tools, or do you use like the ones which you can change out the tips and all?
So the carbides, I have a set of carbides, but I do not use them very often. I have a hollowing rig. There's a gentleman named Trent Bosch out of Colorado. Great turner, great instructor, and he's got a set of tools. I have his traditional steel tools, jack sharp with diamond cards, and then the carbides. And carbides, in their new technology, not really new. They've been around quite a while, but it is a newer way of doing things. It takes different kind of tool control. I know guys who can get beautiful finishes on them, but not as good as I can get with a standard high-speed steel tool, in my opinion. If you're doing pen turning and acrylic stuff, you want to go carbide. It's a lot easier to learn. Learning curve isn't so steep. Catches aren't so severe. So yeah, there's a reason for it. But I use mostly traditional tools. I'm not a tool snob, but I am fond of tools that came out of Sheffield, England. Just like my chisels, I want English steel for most of the point. I've got almost all marples on my chisels and planes, are all old marples, and I like Sheffield steel. They're Crown, Henry Taylor, Robert Sorby. I mean, that's kind of the places I go. But I have my original set of Harbor Freight chisels that are now over 30 years old. But I'll still pull out for certain tasks. Still perfectly suitable once you learn how to sharpen. Most guys buy really nice tools that come out of the box really sharp and never learn how to sharpen, so they never get the same thing. Spend more time learning it. Spend your money on a good sharpening system, and then buy decent tools. It's like buying a Lamborghini, but I can't afford the tires. It's like, it's not going to be good.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think every woodworker should have a lathe and should make their own spindles and stuff for their first product, your own knobs. It's an easy skill to learn, to get competent enough to do that. And not everyone's going to be Mike Mahoney or Kirk DeHere, one of the big, stars of turning. There's a guy named Pat Carroll out of Ireland who makes the most beautiful art. I mean, you just look at the guy and be like, oh my goodness, you did that on a lathe. I've been turning 30 years and I blows my mind. I go, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you mounted it like that. So there's a lot you can do in it. A lot of fun. It's really, really, really fun, life-giving hobby that doesn't have to cost you a fortune. And it doesn't have to take up I've got a 40 by 30 shop. You don't need that. You can do it in a one-car garage,
Very cool. Very cool.
What are you using for finish when you make like a bowl or when you use?
Yeah, I make my own finishes. So that's kind of something I enjoy doing. If I'm not going to use one of my beeswax, mineral oil, and carnauba finishes that I make myself in my own shop, I will use Danish oil if it's not going to be a food safe product. If it's a food safe product, though, it's going to be one of my shop finishes. And if somebody really wants shiny, because some people love that shiny, I actually go to the process of doing a full 5 or 6 coat shellac.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll start with a shellac-based sanding sealer, and I'll just keep abrading that down, usually to around 800, and build that up with 5 or 6 coats to just get a beautiful finish. I don't do any varnishes or lacquers, which a lot of wood turners do. I'm just not personally fond of them. I want to feel the grain of the wood in my hands. It's real important to me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this. I own a wood finish company.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, Willie's Wood Finishes. We make all natural beeswax, carnauba wax, hard wax oil finishes, and I do have some guys that buy my stuff for turning, and they love the way that it makes their stuff look. So
I have to check that out. Do you have a tongue oil finish?
Yeah, that's what my main hard wax oil finish is.
It's tongue.
The main base is tongue oil, so it's tongue oil, beeswax, carnauba wax, candela wax, citrus solvent delimonene, and then there's a little bit of pine rosin in there that helps with the curing of the tongue oil. And yeah, that's my hard wax oil.
Well, I'll jump on and grab some of that and give it a shot, because I am looking for a tongue oil. I don't make one, and I haven't found one that I like right now.
I think
a lot of guys have grits like Pitas and Axe and a few of those guys for polishing, high-speed polishing on lathe that are really nice. But I haven't found a tongue oil that I like yet. Even milk paint, I didn't care for it personally, and I know a lot of guys love that one too.
Yeah, I think you'll probably like it. So I've got 2 products. I've got shop wax, which is a harder kind of paste wax, and then the Willie's Wood finish, and that's the main finish. The nice thing about it is, with lathe or with anything, the higher grit you go, the more sheen you'll get. And so when you're working my finish in, you're just going to build that in, and it's going to, that carnauba wax and beeswax and candela wax is going to buff in.
Get a bit of that friction polish kind of.
Oh yeah.
I like that a lot.
So anywho, yeah, just curious, because I have a couple guys that do use it and that like it, and it's all food safe. I mean, tongue oil is food safe, once it cures, and so they'll use it on bulls and different things they make. But yeah, I was just curious on that. And I know some guys that do actually have one rings, like wedding bands. They'll do the bent wood, and they use CA glue.
Almost everybody in the pen world and the rings uses CA finishes. I've done them. I personally don't care for what they smell like and the mess they make while you're spinning them on, but you can get a high luster, beautiful synthetic finish on something. I mean, it's pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite wood to turn?
My favorite wood to turn, it's got to be walnut still. I mean, nice green cut English walnut is just some of the most beautiful stuff to turn. But I'll turn just about anything. I don't get bent. I love turning the stuff that no one else will turn, just because it makes for a better presentation at the next club meeting. Like, you turned that. Why would you turn that? I'm like, because it's beautiful. You guys ever work with black locust or honey locust?
That's hard stuff.
It's hard, but you put a black light on it, and it fluoresces like you're at a disco party in the 70s. Yep. And that is fun to turn. And then you give somebody a big funky bowl with a crown on top and a black light flashlight for Amazon, and you've got a conversation starter right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever turned Osage orange?
Oh yeah, love it. Yeah, hard as heck, but it's a fun word to turn.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty cool. Yeah. You can't find it too often. I mean,
and most of it's coming in from Argentina right now. Cookwoods in Calumet, Oregon usually has a good selection of it in stock. None of my local guys keep it though.
Yeah, I actually planted an Osage tree on my property just because my goal is just to have different trees, as many different species as I can have, not for woodworking, just because I like trees. I'm not a tree hugger. I just think it's cool. So I've got several different maples. Like the Osage is still small. I've got a European sycamore I planted. I planted it. It was 12 foot tall when I planted it, and it's now about 20 foot tall.
Wow.
They're really fast growing. This fall, I'm probably going to plant cottonwood in the back.
Just you hate your neighbors?
I don't have any neighbors.
Oh, then you're lucky. Because cottonwoods and dogwoods, I'm like, oh, please, Lord Jesus, no more.
Tell me about it.
I can walk around with a bottle of Zyrtex and an inhaler if I ever walk through that again.
We have a beautiful all around our town is cottonwoods, but we have a park down by the river that just has these gorgeous cottonwoods, huge, just provides so much shade. But buddy, when the cotton's falling, like you can't go down there and walk, man. Like it is so annoying. It looks like it's snowing in the middle of summer. I mean, it's crazy.
And in Colorado, and they get to hit the fall and the pollen drops from the pine trees. Those are the two seasons in Colorado. I'm just like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to die. I'm going to drown in my own fluids in my bed at night. It was so bad. Whereabouts in Colorado are you?
I'm on the western slope over by Grand Junction. I'm in a little town called Palisade where peaches are grown.
Yeah, it's beautiful over there. Yeah, beautiful town. Yeah, we were all the way on the other side. So we still had the cottonwoods down by the river, the little branch, the Platte that runs through the middle of Colorado Springs.
Yep.
But mostly we had kind of garbage trees. We had every now and then you get a little bit of sycamore and some maple, but all the ash were gone. I mean, we lost all the ash to that boar beetle. And so the biodiversity in Colorado Springs for turners wasn't great, unless you like turning aspen. And a lot of guys do. It wasn't my favorite. That's one thing I love about Spokane. We have such diversity of trees. I could get box elder, walnut, English walnut, probably 15 different types of maple, poplar, river birch, paper bark birch, aspen, everything. And there's always somebody who's got a tree fell over in a windstorm or has got to pull it down to the power lines. And I'm like, get out all blue and we'll roll out with a chainsaw and pick me up a log or two.
That's the other thing that appeals to me about turning, like building a piece of furniture. I don't have a sawmill, so I've got to go to the lumber store, but turning, to be able to just go grab something for free and make something, oh man,
that's a good feeling.
It is
a good feeling. You just got to watch for that pith. A lot of guys, that's the first thing they forget is they'll get a piece of wood. That pith is usually that gorgeous center part of the tree heart. You're like, oh, the grain in there. I'm going to try to save it. That's where all the tension is, and it just cracks and splits. So you got to cut out that pith about an inch on each side of that log first, and then you're turning the outside. So the bigger log you could get, the deeper, bigger bowls you can turn. I have a 32-inch bar on my chainsaw, and every time I turn that thing on, I get little heart palpitations. I'm like, I think I'd rather tightrope walk or juggle live squirrels. I mean, that thing scares me. So I have a 86-year-old guy. His name is Mark. He was a Forestry Service guy. Whenever I get a big log, I go, Mark, I need your help. He comes over, fires that thing up, 86 years old, cuts out my big old slabs out of the middle. Is that what you want? Perfect. Yeah. He's cut stuff so big for me, I have to get an engine hoist cherry picker to get it up onto my bandsaw to cut the corners off. And then I cherry picker it over to the lathe with a faceplate on it and get it up on there. I can't even lift it. Take 2-3 guys. Some of these 250, 300-pound slabs of wood you can mount up there. And
Jeez, man.
Yeah, so you can get yourself over your skis pretty quick if you're not.
I've seen some of those reels like on Instagram of guys turning huge things.
That one guy
real slow.
Big log at 100 RPM. Yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. I think he's in Europe, but he turned some big stuff. There's a guy, Fazio. He's a Mexican turner who's got a big home-built lathe, and he turns 48-inch bowls and platters, and very talented guy. But most of us, if you've been in the art world for a while, trying to sell something that's 36 inches is not easy. There's not a lot of people who have a place to display that. Yeah. I've kind of found, for me personally, I love turning it because it's a challenge. It makes for great content. People love to see these giant ribbons flying off of a huge wet spinning log. But at the end of the day, I got a 32-inch bowl that no one's got a place to put, and you can only store so many of those. Then you find, oh, there's a charity auction. Well, here's another 36-inch bowl you can auction off. But the sweet spot's kind of that 14 to 16-inch, and there's a great company run by Kurt and Gary DeHeer in Provo, Utah. They're called a Cut Above Bowl Company. You'll see their stickers on a bunch of my gear. I just love these guys. And his son, Gary's an arborist. Kurt DeHeer is one of the best wood turning instructors on the planet, teaches at Craft Supply at the Dale Nish School. And he actually has a company where he'll make you bowl blanks and sets so you could take them home and turn them without having to have a giant chainsaw, a huge bandsaw, a cherry picker to get it up on your lathe. And he does all that, kind of the roughing in work, kind of like hiring a guy to throw up your wall studs, and then you hire a pro who's an artist to do your drywall and a real finished carpenter to do your fancy moldings and your detail. I mean, he's kind of like throwing up the studs for you. So you could start out quick and it's already dry. You're not waiting for something to kiln dry or air dry or something like that. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And Kurt and Gary have really established a really neat little niche that helps people out. But man, you want to make bowls and sell them. 14 to 16 inches is the sweet spot. That's a big solid bowl for someone's table that they'll be proud to pull out.
Right.
24 inches. No.
Yeah, it's getting a bit much. My father-in-law has a sawmill. And so
now you're just bragging.
Yeah. I can't tell you last time I paid for any wood, but if you see this cherry I milled up, man, he gave me this piece of walnut that it's just air dried. You get the purple in it and stuff.
Oh man.
two inch thick piece of walnut. Oh yeah.
Just have to make you a nice platter out of that. Put your Thanksgiving turkey on it.
There we go. Yeah. So what do you got in the lathe right now? What are you working on?
Right now, I just finished up an English walnut piece that was an experiment in air drying, and I'm working on a barrel hinge round jewelry box. So trying to get the two pieces of wood together and the barrel hinge set in the side so it'll open up and have a post in the middle and a little dish for earrings and rings and stuff, and still close up and get at the line. I'm finding, it's my first time working with barrel hinges, that you need two. One barrel hinge is not good enough. You really have to get two. And finding a way to mount those two hinges and still get a perfectly sealing, lining up lid that'll open freely has been a real challenge for me. So I've been kind of engineering that out. I actually did a little 3D design and printed out an alignment jig here for that, so I can try to figure out, get my holes in exactly the right spot and screw it together on the lathe, get all my holes drilled, my diameters right, and take this out. It'll be a sacrificial piece, throw it away and move on to the next phase. So that's a big challenge. And I'm having more fun trying to challenge myself to do something that's not only going to be fun for me and entertaining, but entertaining for the people who watch my channel, so that they're not just like, oh, he's turning another bowl. oh, he's turning another pencil cup. I mean, you can only do so many of those projects. Each one of those projects are important because they teach people skills that translate to the next thing. But eventually, it's not great content. You can't really get a good story arc in content like that, because it's just because you really need a star, right? You need a main character. And for me, it's trying to find more challenging projects that still anybody with basic skills can tackle if they kind of walk through the steps. So
Yep.
I got a project for you.
all right,
You just send it to me when you're done. There's a pair of drumsticks.
a piece of cake, brother. Are
But-
you what do you drum with, 2Bs, or what's your thing?
Yeah, I like the heavier ones. But my favorite wood is obviously hickory's a good one, but Shirakashi oak.
She oak? What if I could get spindle on that? Gosh, I've turned regular she oak before. Is
Yeah,
it?
Shirakashi. It's a Japanese oak.
Oh, so now I have to get it from the Japans. There's probably some tariffs on that. What are you trying to do?
30%.
Sure.
No, the drumsticks that I use that I play are Shirakashi oak
Go check that out.
drumsticks. Now, here's the thing in the world of drumming, and this is the same like with axe handles. Hickory is the number one wood for axe handles. For drumsticks, 99% of the people you see playing drums are using hickory because hickory absorbs impact. It's what it's what it's known for. Axe handles, hickory, right? A good hammer handle is going to be a hickory handle, and I like it. However, I found that the Shirakashi oak, hickory, I'll tear a set of hickory sticks up, but the oak ones dent. They don't like cut like when you're hitting cymbals and stuff. They actually dent more and they last longer.
This is like quarter sawn.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I'd love to. I'll check that out. I always played 2Bs, Vic Firth 2Bs when I was drumming. That was my normal go-to for everything until every church you had to play hot rods and you had to play plastic brushes. I mean, they just kept changing the volume set for you. I'm playing with sponges next week. What's going on here?
What's going? Yeah. But if you look them up, I think it's ProMark is the one that makes the Shirakashi oak.
Check it out. That would be a fun project because you have to replicate something. They both have to be identical, so that'd be a real good skill builder. ProMark Shirakashi oak.
And then what I can do, you send them to me before you finish editing your video, and I'll take a video of me playing them.
Now laser engrave your name on them. Look at you.
There you go.
Everything there.
I like it.
That'd be a good time.
So, and Tom, what do you got going on in the shop? Anything? You've been working too much.
I've not seen my shop in a week, other than I did clean out one end of my garage where all our bicycles and all. That's the closest I've been to the shop. But
that's sad.
I just been working. Praise God that I've been working so much because I got a new tool going to be heading this way. So
did you order it?
So not the one I talked to you about, but the other one. So there's only two things left I want in my shop. Well, technically three if you count a lathe, but yeah. So, and I'll tell you the story. I'm gonna wait till it arrives and I'll post it.
Suspense.
Yeah. So
if it's the second one you told me about, that's pretty cool.
The smaller one. So ironically, I found it cheaper than the sale price.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll tell you the story about it later.
Yeah. Awesome.
So last week, Cameron talking about his Shaper Origin, and I've got all these guys getting their brand new laser this and laser that from the last wood show, and I'm sitting there going, well, I want. And I'm like, will I ever use a Shaper Origin? I'm a wood turner. What am I going to do with that?
I actually used the Shaper Origin at AWFS, and it was fun, but same exact thing. The only thing where, and I would be using it like twice a year, like they have every hinge. You talked about those barrel hinges. I don't know if you're using the sauce barrel hinges, but like the regular sauce hinges, they've got all the templates in there, and like you could do a sauce hinge, the mortise for it in literally probably 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and it's perfect.
That's
So,
cool.
but the reality is, it's a $3,500, $4,000 tool, and I have a template that I made for doing sausages, and it works perfectly. and there are templates you could buy on the market for $100. So, but there's a lot of cool things you could do it. But I'm like you, I was like, how often would I really use that tool? But for the right creative mind, I think you could have a lot of fun with it. And I tell you, Cameron is very creative. Have you watched any of his YouTube videos? He's phenomenal. I love his storytelling. And so I guarantee you, he will. You remember that table he made where he said it's not a river table, where he did like the inlay. I want to say it was like a maple inlay in a Wingate top. I can't remember what woods it was, but I could see him getting creative with that thing on stuff like that more than the technical aspect of it that is so good at. And if you like doing inlays and like doing bow ties and stuff like that, like, dude, that thing is so fast and so easy to use. It's a cool tool. I mean, it really is, but I would get my money's worth out of it, I don't think.
Well, that's engineering at its finest. I mean, you think about the mechanics. Tony, I know you said you're an engineer.
Yeah, it's a robot router. It's a robot router. CNC and a router. And it's brilliant how they came up with the concept for it.
I'm just amazed at how precise it is so you're moving around. It's got a screen, and all you're doing is keeping it in the vicinity. And then the router inside the tool is maneuvering itself for the fine-tune adjustment. And it just boggles my mind how they came up with that concept. But thing works phenomenal.
I've seen a couple of my buddies have them, and they show off. That's cool.
It
and
is.
I walk in and say, this is a Marple's chisel, and this is a wood mallet. I would have put that bow tie in probably twice as long as it takes you, but it's going to look the same when we're done.
Yeah.
You know? But the only thing I spent any money on that was kind of a splurge, and my wife did it when I retired. She got me a Bamboo Labs PS1 3D printer.
Oh, yeah.
She said, you don't want to lose all those 3D skills and all your engineering stuff, and you're still tweaking and thinking of ideas. So she bought me one of those, and I probably use it as much as I use my lathe right now.
Yeah.
I make all of my own fixtures and jigs and stuff for other people.
That's why I want one. I would run it just for my shop.
Mini me's. I made a mini me. What other toy in your shop can you make a mini me?
Yeah,
it doesn't exist. Yeah,
but yeah. For me, I want one just because of making all my own little storage stuff and little jigs and fixtures. And there's a guy I saw on Instagram today made the coolest looking desktop pencil holder that you ever seen out of a 3D printer. And it wasn't just one color. Like he had it 3 different colors, and the pieces all were interchangeable and snapped together.
That's cool.
And it was just cool. I was like, man. And but stuff like that organization and stuff, I would use it for that. I do not want to own a print farm, and Drew Witt and Shop Nation, those guys are making a killing.
He's doing well for himself. Do you see his new shop in Texas they put together?
Yeah, that thing is nice. But
he's always been just an honest, sincere. I think he's a great creator and somebody who's very entertaining. He's a great storyteller.
Great storyteller.
I don't learn from him like I learn from some guys, but I really enjoy watching the show.
Yeah. I've said that a million times. We had him on. Go back and listen to his testimony. Yeah, phenomenal testimony.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and but the same reason I do not watch his channel. Not to say that I couldn't learn woodworking from him. I watch his channel sheerly to be entertained because, in my opinion, he's the best storyteller on YouTube.
He's great.
Well, and you start a video, you can't stop it.
No, you can't. It's
not for anything other than the fact that he's pulled you in with his storytelling.
Yeah.
And you're just there.
And I remember, I've watched him for a long time, and he's progressively gotten better and better and better.
Yep.
He always has some little hook or something that keeps you going. He's just a neat guy. I'd love to meet him someday. I really, really appreciate him.
And he's just the same exact way in person as he is on videos. Like at Workbench Con, you got all these people, what we would call the gurus of YouTube.
Main influencers.
We're nobodies. And like Drew just walked right up to us and started talking to us. Like, it's like, hey, how you guys doing, man? And very humble guy, but having great success. And, the funny thing is that when we were at Workbench Con, the guys that had the biggest channel, Jonathan Katz Moses, what's his name? Fix This Bidell, Brad, and we had also on the podcast, we had I Like to Make Stuff. And, Bob, he's got 3.5 million subscribers. He's one of the most humble guys I've ever met in my life, man. Drew Fisher, 500,000, all these guys that are huge channels, and they are the first ones that'll, just tell you what you want to know or say hey to you, shake your hand. And then at Workbench Guy, the guy that had 2,000 subscribers thought he, was too good to talk to you. It's like,
that's crazy.
It was
crazy.
What do you guys think about Katz, about Jonathan Self kind of doing a little merger thing?
About who?
About Katz Moses and the little merger with the private equity group.
Oh yeah, I'll listen to the podcast, the creator upload on that, and so go listen. I'm not a big fan of that podcast. I listened to that episode just because I saw that he was on it, and it's a very interesting story. And he he talked about how he wanted to stay in control and stay doing his own thing. That's why you never see him accept paid ads on products in his videos. And but he told the whole story of how he has grown, and every time he grown, he hit that barrier where it's like, do I take the chance? And he's like, I just kept betting on myself, and I would take the chance. And we moved to a little bit bigger shop, and then to a bigger shop, and he reached the point. But this company did not require him to give up control of his company. All they did was invest in him and say, you go be you, and we're going to provide the money. And so he still is in control of everything he creates and everything that he's going to put out. And they're just simply a financial backer, and he still has 100% control of his company. So it was a very interesting conversation to listen to. But he got like $2 million from that private equity firm.
Small ventures.
Venture capitalist, whatever you want to call.
I think it's the company. I think it's called Small Ventures. I think he actually gave kind of a testimonial about how he started after getting beat up on a mugging.
I know. Wasn't that a good video?
He just posted. It was really good. I did like that.
Wow.
But I've been watching some of the pushback from the general community. Just kind of reading some of the comments now and then when I've got nothing else to do, like we all do. Thumb through the comments, go, wow, there's some people a little bit butthurt over the whole thing, and I'm like, why would you be jealous of this man's success? I mean,
exactly.
Celebrate it. Yeah,
exactly. I think a lot of that's just jealousy. When people have success, it's easier to try to pull somebody down than lift them up. And
it's a whole lot easier.
That's all it is. So he's a super nice guy. Was able to have a conversation with him at Workbench Con, and he was just the nicest, most laid back fella you could ever meet, man. And,
I'm gonna have to get one of those cons now that I've got a little more travel freedom. Get out there and make it to those.
I wouldn't go to Workbench Con. No, actually.
Which one would you recommend?
Maker Camp.
Okay, everyone says that.
Yeah.
TJ, one of the guys in my club.
And then the second one, I'm going to Texas Woodworking Festival in September. That would be
SWAT?
the second one. Texas.
SWAT's going on. Yeah, SWAT that's the Southwest. The one in Texas is the Woodturners thing happening. Coming up that's a big one. It's happening this coming weekend, and I'm not gonna be able to make it. I got my son coming into town, and I was like, first time after I retired, I could probably make it down there for that, but it didn't work out this year. But that's a big show.
Yeah.
That's a big show.
The only thing about Maker Camp is it's in New York, and that's a long either flight or drive. And for me, getting there is a little difficult. But that one is, everybody says it is just the most amazing event. And
a couple of guys in my other club, the Royal Order Woodturners, is a fun club we have on Instagram. It's just probably 3 dozen of us. And a couple of guys went last year, and they said, you all have to go. We have to have a booth. We have to do our own camp. It sounded like they were setting it up like Burning Man for makers almost. Like there's like little camps getting set up here.
Yep, like that's what it is. And they have a tent set up for one tent, wood turning, next tent, iron forging, next tent. It's crazy, all these different things you can do. But yeah, so TJ's in that Royal Order of Wood Turners. He goes and he teaches wood turning there, I think.
He's our president right now.
Huh?
He's our president of the Royal Order of Wood Turners.
Yeah. I listen to their podcast.
Sawdust Talk.
Yeah. So
they're good. It's a good guy.
So Workbench Con is basically just a big party. If we're honest,
it's just too expensive.
It's very expensive. You don't get the return on investment.
Camp is a third the price of, and you got all these different things where you get to be hands on.
And I could park that bus at Maker Camp, right?
You could drive your and camp right there.
Camp there and be done.
Yeah, and you're not doing that in Atlanta.
You're gonna come past my house if you're going to.
I'll pick you up on the way.
But yeah, so Tom and I did the Workbench Con thing. It was fun. We won tickets to go for a thing we did, and
that was that.
Yep. That was that. And here's the reality. This is something that somebody, I think maybe Bob Claggett or somebody said on the podcast, that like you have to remember that where Workbench Con started, it was nothing, and all these big guys now, these huge channels that everybody knows, they're just a bunch of buddies. And so what happens is you go there, and a lot of those guys are in there clicking, hanging out, and doing whatever. And a few of them, like Brad Rodriguez, man, we stood and talked to Brad, Drew Witt, all these different. There's a few of them that still like, no, they're not about that. But I mean, it's at night. It's all about drinking and how late you can stay up, and it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm an old man. I ain't doing that no more.
Yeah,
them days behind me.
Amen. Amen.
So,
well. Speaking of getting up, I've got to get up and be in Aspen very early in the morning.
All right, I'm running you guys late. I'm sorry, I get chatty.
No. You're good, man. But I need to grab some dinner and get to bed. So, but man, Tony, thanks for coming on, dude. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, man.
It's a pleasure. Yeah. Great to meet both you guys in person, at least on the video stuff. Hopefully we can stay in contact, and I'll go down and find Witt's podcast, and I'll listen to that tonight before I go to bed.
There's 2 episodes because you think you can talk.
Oh boy.
So
I didn't even get into sermonizing. I even had notes here, so we'll do that next time.
Well, we'll have you on again, man.
Absolutely. Well, until next week, I'm Will from Flatwood Acres.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.